South American music begins deep in the continent's history, long before ships from other lands reached its shores. The first sounds belong to the indigenous peoples who lived across this vast land, from the high Andes mountains to the dense Amazon rainforest. Their music was a vital part of their daily lives, not just for entertainment, but for connecting with nature, their gods, and their communities. They used music in ceremonies to ask for a good harvest, to celebrate a successful hunt, or to mark important moments like births and deaths. This music was woven into the very fabric of their societies, a sacred language understood by everyone. It was a way to tell stories, pass down traditions, and maintain the spiritual health of their tribes. The instruments used by these early cultures were made from the natural materials around them. In the mountains, people crafted flutes from bone or reeds, creating haunting melodies that seemed to carry on the wind. The most famous of these is the quena, a vertical flute that produced a pure, airy sound, and the siku, or panpipe, which involved multiple pipes bound together to create different notes. Further down in the forests and plains, the drum was king. Large and small drums were made from hollowed logs and animal skins, their powerful beats echoing the rhythm of the human heart and the pulse of the earth itself. These instruments, along with rattles made from gourds, seeds, or shells, formed the foundation of a rich and diverse musical world. Every region had its own unique sound, a musical dialect that reflected its environment and its people's way of life. The music of the Andes was often melancholic and spacious, mirroring the vast open landscapes of the high plateaus. It was music for reflection and deep spiritual connection. In contrast, the music of the Amazon was often more complex and rhythmic, mimicking the sounds of the jungle with its countless birds, insects, and animals. It was music for ritual, for dance, and for calling upon the spirits of the forest. This early music was not written down. It was passed from one generation to the next through memory and practice, a living tradition that carried the soul of the continent. Even today, the echoes of this ancient music can be heard. While many things have changed over the centuries, the core elements of indigenous music have survived, forming the deep roots of what we now know as South American music. The sounds of the flute and the power of the drum did not disappear. Instead, they became the foundational layer upon which new sounds would be built. This ancient heartbeat provides a continuous thread that connects the modern music of the continent to its most profound origins, reminding us that every rhythm has a history and every melody has a story that began long, long ago. The story of South American music took a dramatic turn with the arrival of Europeans, starting in the 15th century. Ships from Spain and Portugal brought not only new people and new languages, but also new musical instruments and ideas. The newcomers carried guitars, violins, and harps, instruments capable of playing complex harmonies and melodies that were different from the native styles. They also brought their own musical traditions, including religious choir music from the church and lively folk dances from their villages. This European influence began to mix with the indigenous sounds, creating the first layer of a new musical fusion that would define the continent for centuries to come. Soon after, another powerful musical force arrived, brought by enslaved Africans who were forced to come to the continent, especially to Brazil, Colombia, and the Caribbean coast. They brought with them an incredible musical heritage centered on rhythm. African music was rich with complex drum patterns, call and response singing, and a deep connection between music and movement. Despite the immense hardship they faced, they held on to their musical traditions as a form of cultural survival and expression. Their use of polyrhythms, multiple drum patterns played at the same time, added a new dynamic energy that would become a central characteristic of much of South American music. The meeting of these three cultures, indigenous, European, and African, was not always peaceful, but their music began to blend in fascinating ways. This process, known as mestizaje or mixing, created something entirely new. The soulful melodies of the indigenous flutes began to float over the structured chords of the Spanish guitar. The steady beat of European folk dances was injected with the syncopated, offbeat energy of African drums. This fusion was the true birth of Latin American music, a sound born from a history of encounter, conflict and creativity. It was music that could tell multiple stories at once, reflecting the complex new societies that were forming. Across the continent, this musical blending happened in different ways, depending on which cultures were most dominant in a particular area. In regions with large indigenous populations like the Andes, the native influence remained very strong. In places with major ports where enslaved Africans arrived, like Brazil's coast, the African rhythmic influence became the most prominent feature. And in areas with more European settlement, like parts of Argentina, the harmonies and instruments from Europe took center stage. This variety is why South America is not home to one single type of music, but to a vibrant family of related, yet distinct musical styles. As countries in South America gained their independence and formed their own identities, their unique musical blends evolved into distinct national styles. Each style became a source of national pride, a sound that represented the spirit of its people. In Brazil, this fusion gave birth to samba. With its powerful African drum rhythms and the melodic strum of Portuguese guitars, samba became the sound of Brazilian carnival and everyday life. A famous example is the song Aquarela do Brasil, which celebrates the beauty and energy of the country. The samba dance is just as important, with its quick footwork and joyful, swaying movements that fill the streets during celebrations. Meanwhile, in the port cities of Argentina and Uruguay, a different kind of music was developing in the late 19th century. This was the tango, a style born from the melting pot of European immigrants, African rhythms, and local traditions. Tango is a music of passion, drama, and melancholy, often played on the bandoneon, a type of accordion that gives the music its signature mournful sound. The dance is an intense and intimate conversation between two partners. Classic tangos like La Comparsita are known worldwide and instantly evoke images of dimly lit dance halls in Buenos Aires, capturing a feeling of longing and romance. Over in Colombia, another iconic rhythm emerged, cumbia. Cumbia's origins lie on the Caribbean coast, where the rhythms of African drums mixed with the melodies of indigenous flutes and the storytelling style of Spanish songs. Its beat is simple and infectious, a double thump that is easy to dance to, making it popular all across Latin America. The dance originally mimicked the courtship rituals between African men and indigenous women, with the woman's flowing skirt playing a key role in the movements. Songs like La Pollera Colora are anthems of cumbia, celebrating the joy and spirit of Colombian culture. These are just a few examples of the incredible musical diversity that flourished across the continent. In the Andes, countries like Peru and Bolivia continued to develop their folk music, known as Música Andina, which heavily features the traditional quena and siku. In Venezuela, a lively style called joropo emerged, characterized by the harp, maracas, and a fast-paced, festive dance. Each of these styles tells the unique story of its homeland, using the shared ingredients of indigenous, African, and European influences, but mixing them in a way that created something completely their own, a true musical signature for each nation. In the 20th century, South American music began to travel beyond its borders and capture the world's imagination. Thanks to recordings and radio, rhythms like the tango and the samba crossed the oceans and became sensations in Europe and North America. The tango, with its drama and passion, became a dance craze in Paris and New York in the early 1900s. Later, in the 1960s, a softer, jazz-influenced style of samba from Brazil, called bossa nova, took the world by storm. The song The Girl from Ipanema by Antonio Carlos Jobim and Vinicius de Moraes became a massive international hit and remains one of the most famous songs ever written. This global spread was not a one-way street. As South American music influenced the world music also influenced it back. Artists from the continent began to experiment, blending their traditional sounds with rock, pop, and jazz. This led to new movements like the Nueva Canción or New Song in Chile and Argentina, where folk music was used to talk about social and political issues. Musicians like Mercedes Sosa from Argentina and Violeta Parra from Chile became powerful voices for their people, and their music resonated with audiences globally who were interested in folk music with a message. This showed that South American music could be both for dancing and for thinking. Today, South American music is more popular than ever. Artists from Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and beyond are global superstars, topping charts and selling out stadiums around the world. Genres like reggaeton, which has roots in Panamanian and Puerto Rican music, but is hugely popular across South America, have become a dominant force in global pop culture. Modern artists often mix traditional rhythms like cumbia or samba with electronic beats, hip-hop and pop, creating a fresh sound that appeals to a young, international audience. This constant innovation keeps the music alive and relevant for new generations. The importance of South American music lies in its incredible ability to tell a story of resilience, joy, and fusion. It is a living history of the continent, reflecting its complex past and its vibrant present. From the ancient flutes of the Andes to the global pop hits of today, this music is a celebration of life itself. It reminds us that culture is not static. It is always moving, mixing, and creating something new. The rhythms of South America have become part of the world's soundtrack, inviting everyone to feel the passion, share in the joy, and dance to a beat that connects us all.